Bills Mafia. On today's Air Raid Hour pregame, we will be breaking down what we expect to see from the Bills today as they take on the Carolina Panthers. Injury updates, key matchups, our pregame superlatives are all coming up. But first,
Welcome to the Air Raid Hour, a Cover One Network podcast. Here are your hosts, Judge Mathis and Tilt Money.
welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to the Air Raid Hour pregame show brought to you by Picasso's Pizza and the Cover One Sports Network. I already got some people in the chat. Sweet Spikes, Bob Haley, Ryan Toggin. Appreciate you guys. Go Bills. Let's go. Yes. Let's get to it. As you will notice this morning, or if you're watching it later in the morning, maybe this early afternoon, no Till Money today. He is actually live in person. He lives in the Charlotte area in North Carolina, so he is at the game today. So hoping for the best for him as he gets to experience the Buffalo Bills play in person today. Hopefully the Buffalo Bills deliver him a memorable game, and hopefully for all of our sakes, in a blowout fashion. As for this morning, flying solo, so I'm going to do my best to get to the chat, but obviously kind of difficult to maneuver, producing, looking at the comments, getting through my show notes, etc. So if I miss anything, if I don't hit the chat like I normally do, I do apologize for that. As for the rest of this pregame show, there was a lot of long-term talk this week, especially on our social medias. We spent the bye week kind of looking at the framework of the Buffalo Bills roster and various different things, talking about the trade deadline and players the Buffalo Bills could possibly acquire. We're going to put a pin in that for this morning, and we're going to focus solely on the Buffalo Bills and the Carolina Panthers. A couple of notable storylines heading into this game. Sean McDermott is 8-0 in his career with the Buffalo Bills. After the bye week, no head coach in NFL history has that many wins after a bye week without a loss. And the Bills desperately need that number to get to 9-0 this week and avoid a 3-game losing skid heading into what's going to look like a real gauntlet next week against the Kansas City Chiefs. But as of right now, the Buffalo Bills stand at 4-2, losers of their last two, coming off a bye week against the red hot Carolina Panthers. I think before the season started, most people chalked this game up as an easy W. What looked like a lackluster opponent coming off a bye week, no problem. But the Carolina Panthers are 4-3, winners of their last 3 games, relying heavily on their running game, which is a weakness of the Buffalo Bills, their run defense. So we're going to get to all of that. Looking at the weather and the broadcast, it's 1 p.m. It's on Fox. Greg Olson's on the call. Always love when Greg Olson's on the call, so that's going to be rather enjoyable. Don't have to watch this game on mute. The weather should be nice, a nice fall day out there in Charlotte. Moderate winds, cloudy skies, no precipitation until what's expected to be after the game. So it really shouldn't rain during the game. Maybe it rains a little bit, but not really expected. And temperatures in the 60s. So weather shouldn't be a factor at all in this football game. Injuries is another story. Carolina doesn't have a lot of them, but they do have one pretty significant one. Out is their starting quarterback, Bryce Young. Andy Dalton will start in his place. Buffalo Bills, on the other hand, put Taylor Rapp on injured reserve earlier this week. Could it be a soft benching? I don't know, but he has not been playing the greatest of football lately. You have Daquan Jones and Jordan Palmer who are out. I think those are 2 pretty significant injuries. Larry Ogunjobi is making his first game back after an 8-game absence. He's going to need time to work himself back in. You're running low on practice squad call-ups. They elevated Jordan Phillips for this game, but you have 3 3-techs and 1 1-tech in Deion Walker against a team that runs the football really well. That's going to be a problem for the Buffalo Bills today. So Daquan Jones is a significant injury. Joshua Palmer is a pretty significant injury. He is out as well. really the Buffalo Bills do not have very inspiring boundary receivers. All this week, if you follow along on socials, people have been sort of picking Keon Coleman's game apart. And quite frankly, while Keon Coleman can still develop into a good receiver, he should be a wide receiver 4 in an offense right now, not a wide receiver 1, garnering almost 100% of the snaps. So the Bills are probably going to struggle on the boundary again today and have to work over the middle of the field. And then on top of those 3 guys being out, those 3 starters being out, you have a questionable Dalton Kincaid, a questionable Matt Milano, a questionable Terrell Bernard, and a questionable Maxwell Hairston, which is the most positive of the 4 questionables because he has been gone for so long, and we're hoping to get to see him this week. Looking at it, Dalton Kincaid needs to play. Like, I thought he would go in the Atlanta game. The Bills struggled mightily without him. The Bills decided to rest him. Now he's had essentially 3 weeks to recuperate from this oblique injury, but he was still limited all week in practice again. I would like to see him at some point this season not be used like James Cook and only play 50% of the snaps. I would like to see him on the field closer to 70-75% of the snaps, and I would like to see him targeted more. He was a first-round pick. I think he's a blue-chip player, but he is dinged. So at this point, I will just take him being on the field for his typical 49% and targeted his typical 5-6 times a game. I think the Buffalo Bills need that separator, that man separator in Dalton Kincaid, even though Carolina does play a lot of zone. We'll get into that. Bernard and Milano, who knows with those 2 at this point, really. You do not want your sideline to sideline guy in Terrell Bernard, your middle linebacker. You don't want him playing on a bum ankle. It's just not ideal. And then you have Matt Milano, who was injured with a pec injury, came back, and then re-injured himself. So again, not ideal. Is 2 weeks after re-injuring your first injury a good time to get back into the game? I don't know. So your top 2 linebackers are dinged. You didn't call anyone up because you quite frankly needed the roster spots elsewhere. So the expectation is, based on just looking at who the Bills elevated, one of those 2 guys, if not both of those guys, are going to play. But if they don't, the Bills only have 3 other linebackers. And those linebackers are Shaq Thompson, who I think has been playing well, probably our best linebacker this year. What a great find for Brandon Beane. But also, what does that say that he's been our best linebacker this year? I thought Dorian Williams was better last week. I think he's better as a 3rd linebacker in that 3rd linebacker role, but he might be pressed into more today. And then you got Buffalo Joe, who to me is just a goal line special team, short yardage type guy. You really aren't going to want him on the field too much. But if you're trying to shut down a Rico Dowdle, if you're trying to shut down a Chuba Hubbard, maybe Buffalo Joe gets some run today, especially if those top 2 linebackers are dinged up and are limited or don't play. And then you have Maxwell Hairston, right? You don't activate that guy to sit that guy. So to me, Maxwell Hairston is probably going to be active today. He's probably going to play today. Obviously, he's missed a ton of reps. He's probably still getting back into game shape, and he still has a light brace on his knee. So I understand all of those things. But he looked pretty fluid in the couple of videos we saw in practice. The reporters who were on hand said he looked pretty good. My expectation is Jordan Poyer is going to start for Taylor Rapp at safety, and Trey White is going to continue to stay in the starting lineup, at least for now, at the cornerback spot. But I would love it if this week the Buffalo Bills made the decision, kind of like they did in the New Orleans game with Dorian Strong. We're going to get Maxwell Hairston a couple of rotations at corner. We're going to get Jordan Hancock a couple of rotations at safety. I would really like to see that from the Buffalo Bills today. Start working in some of this youth. The Bills need juice. Like wherever they can find it. Hopefully Michael Hoyt is juice. Hopefully Larry Ogunjobi is juice. The linebacker position, hopefully when Bernard and Milano get healthy, they add some juice. Maxwell Hairston, we know he's explosive. Hope maybe he can add some juice. And then Jordan Hancock. I mean, not a lot of juice in that safety position. Can't be worse the way they're playing. So maybe a little influx of youth back there, even though you're losing some of that experience, could be good for the Buffalo Bills secondary. So that's about it for weather and injuries. We're going to get to the Buffalo Bills offense in a moment here. But first, a quick word from our sponsor.
Picasso's Pizza. Beat your team to the most flavorful pizza on game day. Picasso's. We are Buffalo Pizza. Shipping both local and nationwide. Order online today at Picasso'sPizza.net.
This episode is brought to you by Picasso's Pizza with 4 convenient locations in Williamsville, West Seneca, Lancaster, and Blaisdell. Picasso's Pizza has been serving Buffalo's best pizza since 1980. Whether you're local or across the country, you can enjoy their delicious pizza delivered fresh to your door. Visit picassospizza.net to place your order today. Once again, that is picassospizza.net. All right, so taking a look at this, and Sweet Spike comes in and says, "Did Judge ever get to sleep?" I'll tell you what, like, I don't know if you guys have noticed this. My voice is pretty shot today. I coach JV basketball and I coach club basketball. We had 4 games yesterday, and God bless those kids, but they're on the struggle bus this year. So I did a lot of not yelling, because I don't yell at kids, but just a lot of elevating my voice to get my message across all over the basketball court over the course of like 6-7 hours yesterday in the 4 games that we had to play. And then being out in the West Coast here, these 8 a.m. shows are 5 a.m. for me. So I had to get up around 3:45 this morning after going to bed around probably 11. So sleep is not plentiful, but I take advantage of it when I can. Let's get to the Buffalo Bills offense versus the Panthers defense. Some quick stats here that are not very encouraging for the Buffalo Bills offense that I think goes to show you some of their struggles. And kudos to the Bills Wire. They're the ones who posted these statistics. The Bills have put up fewer points per game over their last 3 matchups, 21.7, than they have averaged for the season, 27.8. Buffalo has tallied fewer yards per game over its past 3 matchups, 336.7, than it has averaged for the season, 378.3. In the passing game, the Bills have a decrease in production over their last 3 games, collecting 197.7 passing yards per game compared to their season average of 227.3 passing yards per contest. And Buffalo is running for 151 yards per contest this season, but that has declined on the ground over their last 3 games, averaging 139 rushing yards per game. So the Bills offense is much like my basketball players, like on the struggle bus a little bit. Maybe Sean McDermott's going to be doing a lot of clapping today. Those hands are going to be sore, but let's see what they're going up against here. We got the personnel of the Carolina Panthers, which is a much improved defense than they have been in years past. Up front, Derek Brown, Ashawn Robinson, Tershawn Wharton, Bobby Brown. That is a pretty stout little front that they got there in their 3-4 defense. Their edge rushers had their best week last week against the Jets, but they're young and they don't have the most juice in the world. And Nick Skirton, DJ Wonham, Princey Amulimillian, and Boogie Basham rotates in a little bit as well as their 4th or 5th reserve edge rusher there. Their linebackers, Trevin Wallace, nice little young player there, Christian Roseboom. Their cornerbacks, J.C. Horn, who's a stud. And then they got Mike Jackson and Chow Wade Smith in the nickel. And then at safeties, they got Trevin Moehrig, Nick Scott, but they also rotate in rookie Lathan Ransom. Their defensive coordinator is Giro Evero. They're a zone-heavy unit, low man coverage rate, only 15%. They rarely blitz, and their pass rush has struggled. League worst pressure metrics, but like I said, they had their best week last week against the Jets, and they are really improved against the run. They're 7th in EPA per rush. So a decent, solid unit with some good players. So the Buffalo Bills are going to have a challenge in front of themselves today. But Carolina, it's going to be interesting to watch their defense today. They haven't really faced an elite quarterback like Josh Allen. They did face Dak, so I will give them that. I think Dak might be the best quarterback in football right now. They played Dak last week. But other than that, Tua, Tyrod, Justin Fields, like they haven't exactly faced a murderer's row of quarterbacks outside of Dak. So last week with Dak and then this week with Josh Allen, they're facing things that they really hadn't faced all year previous. And the Panthers' run defense has improved as well. Like I said, 7th in EPA. So that's the big elephant in the room today is what can the Buffalo Bills do? What can the Buffalo or I almost went into my defensive stats here. My defensive notes here. So didn't mean to do that. But if I'm Joe Brady, so let's start with this. Now that I'm done being on the struggle bus myself here, I'm going to give you what I would do if I was Joe Brady today and on the Buffalo Bills offense and what I think the Buffalo Bills are going to do, essentially. If I'm Joe Brady, there are 3 things that I want to accomplish in this game. The number 1 thing is I want to feed Khalil Shakir. And I've been talking about this on social media a little bit, and I've been getting a little pushback. and I don't really care. And I'm going to sort of explain myself here and walk myself through this take. And you guys can let me know in the comments whether you agree or disagree. But to me, this is a game, especially with your boundary receiver struggling and the Carolina Panthers, the metrics say they've been struggling a little bit in their defense. One of the weaknesses of their defense is over the middle of the field, especially the tight ends. Feed Khalil Shakir. And I'm talking like not 6-7 targets. I'm talking if anyone knows any kids, I just made a 6-7 reference there, and that was an accident. And there might be some people giggling if you're watching in the room with teenagers, but feed Khalil Shakir 10-15 times a game, right? Like, and not just manufacturing stuff like screen passes, like get him the ball and put a concerted effort into putting the ball into his hands on a regular basis. Is he Jamar Chase, a guy who deserves like 15, 20 targets a game? No, but if you make an effort to feed Khalil Shakir and the defense starts to see that that is the guy that you are going to, and you are funneling your offense through, or at least your passing game through, they're going to start to cheat Khalil Shakir, and it's going to start opening things for other people. So if you're the Buffalo Bills, Keon Coleman's just not getting it done on the boundary, and it's much more difficult to manufacture on the boundary. Dalton Kincaid, if he was healthy, I might be making the argument to feed him the ball 10, 12 times. But right now he's dealing with that oblique. So I'm just going to be content with the Buffalo Bills playing him. I hope he plays today, and feeding him how they've been feeding him, because even though it's been limited, it's been effective. That's number one. Feed Khalil Shakir, manufacture touches for him, 10, 15 catches, targets this game. And I think that'll open some things up for some other people. That's number one, if I'm Joe Brady. Number two, if I'm Joe Brady, James Cook should touch the ball 25 to 30 times this game. Like, you paid him, use him. It seems like the last couple of weeks, the Buffalo Bills have been trying to prove a point that they don't need to give James Cook the ball 25 times. And guess what? It's not working out well for you. So make sure that James Cook touches the ball about 25 times, 20 to 22 on the ground, 3 to 5 in the passing game. Yes, in the passing game. That would be nice. Nate Geary made a comment on social media last week after the game, and it kind of stuck with me. He was like, it seems like the Bills are just trying to hide things in the regular season, so they can unleash them in the postseason like the Chiefs do. You're not the Chiefs. Stop trying to hide stuff in the postseason, in the regular season. Stop trying to be vanilla. Like, you've lost 2 games in a row. It's time to open up the playbook and bring back the motions and bring back some of that creativity and some of the things that you had success with, those orbit motions and things like that, using James Cook in the slot. Time to bring it all back. Time to bring it back. You got to have some answers for these cover threes, which they've been struggling with. Got to get the ball in James Cook's hand. So feed Khalil Shakir, feed James Cook. And then my third, if I'm Joe Brady, it is get the ball into Dalton Kincaid's hand. Now, again, I will say this with the preface that he might be limited with his oblique injury, but the Panthers struggle versus tight ends. Get the tight ends involved. Get Josh Allen on the move, rolling out a little bit. Utilize that play action and get the ball in the middle of the field to your tight ends. Stick with the run duo. Get the ball into the hands of the tight ends. Stay in manageable goal-to-goal situations. So these are some of just the smaller things you can do outside of feeding Shakir, Cook, and Kincaid. And the last thing here is take advantage of second and shorts by passing the ball. The Bills are running the ball a lot on second and short and picking up first downs, and that's great. But I would love to see them use those as a chance to take shots down the field, right? I don't need the Bills to take 30 shots down the field, but I need them to take calculated shots, and I need them to hit on the calculated shots. You look at the New England Patriots right now, and everybody's up Drake May's ass, and they're up his ass for good reason. He is an MVP candidate. He's playing out of his gourd. The guy does not throw down the field a lot. He doesn't. Like 30th in the league and throwing the ball 20 plus yards. But he's like the most efficient quarterback at doing it. I think he's got like 1 incompletion over 20 yards this year. I think he's like 11 for 12 or something insane like that. I don't have the statistics in front of me, but like, they don't throw the ball down the field a lot, but they're just effective when they do it. So if you're the Buffalo Bills, you don't need to throw the ball down the field. You just got to be effective when you do it. And one of the advantages that I think you can use is utilizing second and short to your advantage. Throw the ball down the field. Stop trying to, like, I get it. You want to keep your defense off the field. You want to move the clock. You want to sustain drives. In this football game, you need to get a 2-score lead, I think, to help your defense. So the Carolina Panthers and Rico Dowdell and Chuba Hubbard can't run the ball down your throats all game. So working your way down the field on these long 8-minute drives, kicking field goals instead of going for it on 4th downs inside the 50. These are the things that are going to allow the Carolina Panthers to do whatever they want on offense. So if you're the Buffalo Bills, I think you need more explosives in this game. And I think second and short is a chance to get you some of those explosives, get you some of those downfield. So if I'm Joe Brady, feed Khalil Shakir, feed James Cook, get Dalton Kincaid the ball as much as you can with his injury, run and stick with the run, use the play action to your advantage, get the ball into your tight end's hands, get the ball into your running back's hands, and take advantage of those second and short situations by passing the football. That's what I would do if I'm Joe Brady. What do I expect? That's next. What do I expect? What do I think we're going to see? I think you're going to see for the entirety of this game, given what they have on the boundary at wide receiver, I think you're going to see an offense very similar to the first drive of the second half versus Atlanta. I think you're going to see a lot of condensed formations. I think you're going to see a lot of heavy sets. I think you're going to see a lot of running the ball. I think you're going to see a lot of short stuff. I think the Bills are going to run the ball a ton on second and short. I don't think they're going to throw it on second and short. I think they're just going to pick up first downs, matriculate the ball down the field, and play the field position game and keep the defense off the field, like by just having these long, plodding, matriculating drives on offense. I think that is what the Buffalo Bills are going to do: matriculate the ball, calculated shots, long drives to keep the defense off the field. I think that's going to be the goal. I don't think you're going to see anything cute. I think Sean McDermott has made that pretty clear to Joe Brady. I think you're going to see a lot of north-south stuff, a lot of duo. I think the Bills are just going to try to grind out a win today. I don't expect them to open up the playbook. I don't expect them to go crazy. I really do think, like, and the Bills put themselves in this situation. There's two guys in the receiving room. Well, three guys if you want to count Dalton Kincaid. But if you're talking about pure receivers, there's two guys you couldn't lose this year. Khalil Shakir, because of what he gives you yakking in the slot and as a security blanket, and Josh Palmer, who gives you a pulse in the boundary. Because Keon Coleman's not cutting it. He's not. Like, I'm not saying there's not a future there for Keon. He's better as a wide receiver 4 right now. I think the Buffalo Bills need to make a trade and move everyone one slot down on the depth chart. But without Josh Palmer, you saw it in the second half of that Atlanta game. There's just no pulse on the boundary. None. If you're going to be throwing 50-50 balls to Keon Coleman going up against J.C. Horn, you're asking for trouble. Like, that's low efficiency. It's going to kill drives. The chances of Keon Coleman executing those are just very low. If he does, kudos to him. I'll eat the crow. But to me, it's going to be a tricky one for the Buffalo Bills today. Will Joe Brady do the things that I'm talking about? Or is it going to get super conservative to, quite honestly, protect the lack of juice from the wide receiver room? What is Curtis Samuel even providing you? Because, I mean, the guy's got 15 injuries. Even though he's active today, he practiced in full on Friday. What's he giving you? He'll return kicks. Maybe he'll make an explosive in the passing game, from a motion or in an orbit like he did. But is he going to play on the boundary? Is he going to make plays down the field? If they're playing a lot of zone today, so maybe that plays to Curtis Samuel's advantage. Guys aren't going to be pressing him and sticking him at the line of scrimmage unless Evero really switches up what he's doing. And with all of his injuries, Curtis Samuel might struggle with that. So maybe that plays to the Buffalo Bills' advantage today. But the Bills need to score. They need to score early. I'd be very aggressive on fourth down. Touchdowns greater than field goals. You got to get the Panthers to have Andy Dalton throw the ball 40 times. That's the goal, right? If the Carolina Panthers can just run whenever they want, Rico Dowdell, Chuba Hubbard, it's going to be a close game. It's going to be a lower scoring game, and they're going to see a lot of long plodding drives unless they get some explosives. And a statistic that was shared on the Bills squad pod that I really liked. The last 2 seasons, the Bills are 15-1 when they score 30 plus points. They are 2-7 when they don't. So go out there and score 30, guys. I think we need it. When the Bills offense is explosive, the Bills are humming. When the Bills offense is not explosive, the Bills are not humming. So this is just not a defense that's going to win you games. It's a defense that'll keep you in games. It's a defense that can get you the offense the ball back with a chance to win the game. It's not a defense that's going to, force a team other than the New York Jets below 10 points and, force 3 turnovers and really win you a game. They're not going to do it. It's just not in the cards. I don't even think later on in the season the Bills are going to do it. I just think in some really important positions like linebacker and safety, the play is just not where it needs to be. So to me, Buffalo Bills offense, go score 30 plus because I think your team is going to need it to be successful today. All right. On that note, let's switch it over to the defense. Looking at the Panthers offense, Andy Dalton starting at quarterback for Bryce Young. They got 2 really good running backs in Rico Dowdell and Chuba Hubbard. Tetaroa McMillan, Xavier Legette, Jalen Coker, Jimmy Horn Jr., Hunter Renfro. They make up their receiving core. I really like what I've seen from Tetaroa McMillan this year. Xavier Legette he was really bad, but he's had a couple of at least box score statistics, good games lately. Jalen Coker still working himself back, but he's been impressive his rookie year. Jimmy Horn Jr.'s got some juice. Young receiving core outside of Hunter Renfro, but a talented, I think, receiving core. Tommy Tremble, Mitchell Evans, Jatavion Sanders at tight end. They sort of rotate those guys. And then their offensive line left to right last week was Ike Ekwonu, Austin Corbett, Cade Mays, Brady Christensen, and Tyler Moton. They've used 6 different offensive line rotations in their 7 games this year, but they've been pretty effective. And they get Damian Lewis back, so he should slot in the left guard spot today for Austin Corbett. So I think GM-wise, Dan Morgan did a good job, and I think their head coach, Dave Canales, did a really good job expressing to Dan Morgan what Bryce Young needed. Bryce Young is a shorter quarterback. He needed some really good interior offensive linemen. They went out and they paid Austin Corbett, who hasn't really paid off, but he played well last week. They paid Damian Lewis. They got Cade Mays, Brady Christensen, a second-round pick, is sort of rounding into form. They're doing a nice job protecting from the interior, and they got some nice young tackles, Ike Ekwonu and Tyler Moton. So a good offensive line for the Carolina Panthers. They're a run-leaning, balanced offense. They average 140 yards per game on the season. They're 4th in EPA per rush. They are below average in the passing game, 22nd in EPA per pass. They only average 20.7 points per game. So the Bills average a touchdown more a game. Andy Dalton, you know what you're getting from Andy Dalton. He's going to be on schedule. He's going to be low variance. He's a steady Eddie quarterback. You're not going to get the variance that you get, maybe the turnovers that you get with a Bryce Young. So to be honest with you, no offense to Bryce Young, I think Andy Dalton might actually be a tougher matchup, because even though that ceiling for Bryce Young is higher, that floor for Andy Dalton is a lot higher than it is for Bryce Young with that variance. So honestly, not a crazy conversation to be had on defense outside of like who should be playing. Just a little refresher from the top of the show with a couple of new things mixed in. Obviously, Bosa and Rousseau are your top 2 edges, but I think Epinesa is your 3rd, and then Michael Hoyt is your 4th. And I really don't need to see Javon Solomon or Landon Jackson in this game. Just roll those 4. Let Michael Hoyt loose. Hopefully he's up to speed enough to be that 4th guy in that rotation. Move him around a little bit, get creative. Hopefully, I think the edge rushers have been fine. The top 3 have been more than fine, even though like the SAG numbers might not be there. I think the pressure numbers are there, and I think they've been doing their jobs. So to me, those top 4 are fine. I'm not worried about edge rusher. IDL, I'm not worried about the top 2. I think Ed Oliver and Deion Walker, even though you'll get a misplay from them here and there, especially Walker, the rookie, I think those 2 got juice. And I really like the way that those 2 approach the game and the ceiling that they give you week in and week out. The wild cards are Jordan Phillips and Larry Ogunjobi, right? Larry Ogunjobi had a down year, had some down years in Pittsburgh after some big years in Cleveland. You know, the main talking point when the Bills signed him was, well, he was just out of place in that Pittsburgh scheme. The Bills scheme is a little bit more, 4-3 front. Like, he'll get that juice back. He's still a good player. But then he was really quiet in the preseason, hasn't played for 8 games. So I'll tell you what, like, I didn't really notice Larry Ogunjobi in training camp or the preseason, but like seeing the videos of him this week in practice, that's a thick boy. Like, so hopefully he can get out there and he can make his presence felt, and he can be a nice little oomph of juice for the Buffalo Bills defensive line. But at the end of the day, I don't know how much we can expect first week back. And then you got Jordan Phillips, who again, this is 3 techs here in Ed Oliver, in Jordan Phillips and Larry Ogunjobi. So who's playing the 1? Is it Ogunjobi taking the 1? If he is, he's out of position then. And then, does he give you that juice from that spot as opposed to the 3 tech spot? If it's Jordan Phillips, we know the leverage issues that he's had over the years. So, I mean, I maybe would have liked to have seen a Fedarian Mathis or a signing of Zion Logue to the active roster. But those guys are such, like, I don't want to say bottom of the barrel players, but like, are they really difference makers, even though they are the prototype that you want? I don't know. So I'm a little concerned. And Aaron Quinn comes in and says he's over Jordan Phillips. I agree. I like the top 2 guys in the IDL. The back 2 guys in the rotation, I'm not so sure about right now. And for Ogunjobi, it's just kind of the mystery box thing. Like, I'm confident that over time, Ogunjobi will have some juice. It might pleasantly surprise all of us despite a quiet preseason, but I just don't know what you're going to get the first week back from him. So on the IDL, that's the issue. Then at linebacker, Bernard and Milano both dinged. right? Like, so from a health perspective, you're like, what are they really offering you? Can they get sideline to sideline? Are they going to play with 100% confidence and do the things that they need to do, especially when fitting the run to be successful if they play? And if they don't play, you only got 3 healthy linebackers in Shaq Thompson, Dorian Williams. Dorian Williams has those issues with, guys playing behind him and dropping back into coverage. And then you got Buffalo Joe. And I love Buffalo Joe, but he's a special teamer and he's a short yardage guy. You don't want him on the field defending the pass. So to me, right, and Aaron Quinn comes in and says, I don't hate Dorian Williams and Shaq Thompson against the run. I don't disagree with you in that sense, but I don't like the fact that there's only 2 of them. Like, I really would like the Buffalo Bills to be able to play more base in this game, go 4-3. And if Bernard and Milano are dinged, it makes it a little harder for the Buffalo Bills to do that. So maybe Bernard goes or Milano goes and you have your 3, but just the concern of those guys playing dinged, those top 2 guys playing dinged, I think the Buffalo Bills have some depth issues in this game. So that's my concern at the linebacker position. And then when you look at the secondary, listen, Christian Benford, has he played up to his standard? No. Taron Johnson, has he played up to his standard? No. I'm not too concerned about those guys because I just think they've been surrounded by a hot mess, quite frankly. So to me, I'm not worried about those 2. I'm not really worried about Cole Bishop. The tackle rate could be better. But I think as the rest of the secondary gets better around him, he's going to keep stacking weeks and he's going to keep developing. He's going to keep getting better. The wild cards are the strong safety spot and the cornerback spot. As I said at the top of the show, I think it's going to be White. I think it's going to be Poyer. I'm not necessarily saying that is wrong, but I would like to see Maxwell Hairston and Jordan Hancock worked in like Dorian Strong was worked in that New Orleans game. I would like to see the Buffalo Bills get the youth some reps. I would like to see these guys have some juice in the secondary. I understand the Bills have a very complicated coverage scheme. It's not the easiest thing to throw these young players into the fire like that, especially Hairston, who's got a lot of mental reps, not a lot of physical reps. Hancock certainly has the physical reps. Maybe he's not getting them in practice because he's so low down the depth chart, but I'd like to see those 2 young guys worked in. In terms of overall strategy, run blitz the heck out of them. Do what you got to do. Sell out. Make Andy Dalton have to beat you over the top. Like, I mean, end of the day, if Andy Dalton beats us, fine, right? Like, if Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard run the ball all over us and they control the ball and they get explosives, dude, you knew it was coming. So to me, run blitz the heck out of them. Try to pressure Andy Dalton when you can. Try to pressure him up the middle. Right? Try to get Michael Hoyt in that 3-tech spot or that IDL spot or standing up in the A gap and blitzing the B gap. Like, force Andy Dalton out of the pocket. I think that would be to the advantage of the Buffalo Bills. Keep everything in front of you and wrap up tackling. Easier said than done, especially with this Buffalo Bills team and the tackle rates they have this year. And then a turnover or 2 would be nice. I'm not confident that this unit has the juice to turn the ball over like they have in years past. But then again, they were pretty dinged last year and still managed to turn the ball over. But you're seeing the variance now from year to year in the ability to turn the ball over. But some turnovers would be nice for the Buffalo Bills defense this year. Taking a quick look at special teams here for the Carolina Panthers. Ryan Fitzgerald, their young kicker, 12 for 13 on the year with a long of 57, 13 for 14 on XPs. He's been solid. Sam Martin, revenge game for Sam Martin, the punter. He's averaging 47 yards per punt this year, which is good for 22nd in the league. 10 of his 23 punts have been pinned inside the 20, which is tied for 11th. Not the greatest in the world, not the worst in the world. I think most Bills fans would take that right now from the punter position. And that guy was on the roster and really didn't save you all that much money to cut him. So Sam Martin, revenge game for the Carolina Panthers today. And then the return game, they got Trevor Etienne returning kicks, Jimmy Horn Jr. returning punts. It was Trevor Etienne because Jimmy Horn Jr. was hurt. And Etienne had a couple of fumbles or 1 fumble on a punt return, but he's been solid on kick returns. So I don't know. I'm no game breaking talent in their return unit. So hopefully the Buffalo Bills can do their job there and not allow them to flip the field on special teams and do things like that. All right. As always, the back half of our show is devoted to our pre-game superlatives. As always, we lead off here with our Take Me Higher player of the game. All right, no Dave today, so this might go a little quicker than usual, but feel free in the comments section to hit me up with your pre-game superlatives. I'm going to start with my Take Me Higher player of the game, and since Dave's not here, I'm going to cheat a little bit. to me, it's got to be Dalton Kincaid or Khalil Shakir. One of these two receivers that work the middle of the field, that work the slot, they need to step up and they need to have a big game for the Buffalo Bills today. The Buffalo Bills need to make it a point of emphasis to target their best players, even if Dalton Kincaid is a little dinged. I think at minimum between the two of these guys, if Kincaid plays, which I hope he does, I think he does, between the two of these guys, 12 to 15 targets. Like, get them the ball. If at the end of the game, that number is below 10, that number is below 12, that's going to be highly disappointing. It really is. And my guess is if that number is below 10 or below 12, we probably didn't win the football game. Like, get the ball into the hands of your best players. You could make James Cook your wild card player, or you're taking a higher player of the game at this point. But to me, your best players on offense need to start funneling the ball. They need to eat, and then everyone else can scrape off the crumbs, and they can survive off the crumbs. You got to get the ball into the hands of your best players. My wild card player of the game. Decided to go over onto the defensive side of the ball for my wild card player of the game. And honestly, this could have been a multitude of players because there's a lot of wild cards. You've got the Larry Ogunjobi wild card. You got the Michael Hoyt wild card, two players we haven't seen before in a Bills uniform outside of the preseason. Jordan Phillips, right? That's a wild card player as part of your defensive line rotation. Shaq Williams, Dorian Williams have a chance to play today. That sort of falls into the wild card equation. But I'm going to go with Jordan Poyer here, starting at strong safety. It seems like last week in the second half when Jordan Poyer got some run, that defense got a little bit of a sense of stability. So it's going to take a team effort on defense. There's a lot of weak links that you need to mask. I'm going to go with Jordan Poyer and his veteran leadership as my wild card player of the game. I think he'll make some plays at the line of scrimmage. I think he'll make some plays in coverage. And I think he will maybe steady that secondary a little bit for the Buffalo Bills that has been struggling, it seems like, to communicate and struggling to get on the same page, and safety duo that, quite frankly, has struggled to tackle. So I'm going with Jordan Phillips as my wild card player of the game. And that leads us to our Respect You player of the game. All right, this one was pretty easy for me. And since Dave is gone, I'm going to do one offensive player, one defensive player here. On offense, it's Rico Dowdle. I mean, he's been their bread and butter for a couple of weeks now when Chuba Hubbard got hurt. I know Chuba Hubbard's back now, but this guy's been carrying the load for this football team. He's been killing it. Been really doing really well for my fantasy team as well. Hopefully this week I lose in fantasy because he gets shut down. But Rico Dowdle is my offensive Respect You player of the game. And then on defense, it's Derek Brown. I mean, I love good interior defensive line play, whether it's Chris Jones when we play Chris Jones, or it's Justin Matabuke when we play the Ravens, or it's Quinnen Williams when we play the Jets, or it's Christian Barmore when we play the Patriots. I love IDL disruptors, guys who can play the run and the pass. I prefer them over 315 pounds. I'll love to add, but I prefer them over 315 pounds. So Derek Brown, right? Just solid interior disruptor in the run game and the pass game. Going to go with Derek Brown as my Respect You player of the game. And that leads to a fire sale here, or hottest take from the game. Not my spiciest of takes this week, and I know I get flamed because my takes aren't always the spiciest, but the Carolina Panthers are a team surrendering only 92.6 yards per game on the ground. That's 8th in the NFL. That's an entire team, right? Like, so they are shutting down quarterback scrambles, wide receiver reverses, all the running backs. 92, less than 100 yards per game. So my hot take of the game is James Cook goes over 100 yards rushing and over 125 scrimmage yards because the Buffalo Bills get him involved in the passing game. So not the hottest of takes, but I think he does better than, on average, the rest of the league has done to the Carolina Panthers through the course of 7 games. And that leads us finally to our game prediction, taking you back to the future. All right, taking you back to the future here with my game prediction. I'm going to go Bills 27, Panthers 20. I think it's going to be a close game, relatively low scoring, because I think both teams will try to matriculate down the field and have these longer drives based around the run game. But I think the Buffalo Bills defense finally forces some turnovers in the second half, and the Buffalo Bills are able to pull away for a 1-touchdown win, 27-20. Looking through at some of your comments, like I said, sorry, I'm by myself today, so it's a little bit more difficult for me. We got Carl Thoman coming in saying Curtis Samuel, maybe that's his wild card there with 2 catches and explosive plays down the field. Deion Walker having a big game, that would be nice. Ralph Wilson Sr. coming in saying Shaq Thompson revenge game. Drop Bernard off at Pinehurst, number 2. And be done with him. Not so sure about that, but Shaq Thompson revenge game, always an important thing to note. And then we got Carl Thoman coming here saying Jackson Hawes catches a touchdown pass from Josh. So thank you guys so much for joining us. And Carl Thoman comes in, Bills 28, Panthers 13. Thank you guys so much for joining us here this morning. Some closing thoughts. Don't forget to watch the Cover One post game show live following the game. You got Greg, you got Aaron breaking it all down. Our next show, and Dave will be there, don't worry, is tomorrow night at 9 p.m. where we'll hopefully be celebrating a 5-2 record heading into Chiefs week. And then the last thing, if you're looking to help out this show here, there are 3 things that you can do. Number 1, smash that like button. That really helps us with the algorithm. Number 2, click that share button. Share this on socials. Text the link to friends, family, anyone you think would enjoy this Buffalo Bills pregame show. And then last but not least, once the show is done being live and I've hit the button and it's just on demand for anyone to view at any time, go back and leave a comment. It can be a score prediction, your superlatives, your thoughts on what the offense needs to do, your thoughts on what the defense needs to do, a cheers, a go Bills, anything. I'll do my best over the course of the morning to respond to those, and that helps us with the algorithm as well. We tried our best not to have the clickbaity titles and the clickbaity graphics and all that good stuff. So anything you guys can do to help us with the algorithm, we greatly appreciate. Thank you guys so much. I know it was a quicker pregame, but when there's not 2 people talking, a little easier to get through things. So hopefully you have a good morning. Enjoy. I guess you can't enjoy any morning football. There's no European game this week. One of my hot takes is you should just take the worst AFC game every week, or the worst game between 2 AFC teams, and kick it off at 10 a.m. Boom. There you go. Like, I could go for some Browns Patriots right now, even though the Patriots are good. I guess that would be unfair. Whoever the Jets are playing, right? I could go for one of those games at 10 a.m. right now, watching that leading into the 1 p.m. window. But enjoy the Bills game. Then enjoy the 4 p.m. window. Enjoy Sunday Night Football. Hopefully you can enjoy it because the Bills gave you a victory. And we will see you back here again tomorrow. Thank you again. Until next time, go Bills.
Thank you for watching tonight's episode of the Air Raid Hour. Make sure to hit that like button on the way out. If you are catching the show on demand, leave a reply in the comment section and we will respond over the course of the week. You can always listen to every episode next day on all major podcasting platforms, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify, by searching Air Raid Buffalo. Thank you for your continued support, and as always, go Bills!